Hey folks, this is Fernando doing another video for the Modern Survivalist, and in this video I'm going to be addressing a topic that I get asked about quite often, which is cash and precious metals when bugging out, their importance in survival and preparedness, and how you manage, especially when bugging out, when moving elsewhere to another country, when traveling with cash and precious metals. I actually have an email here asking about this. It goes, "Hi Fernando, I was just wondering, quick question, when you moved to Europe, you left Argentina with most of your belongings?" Actually, no, I left with very little. This is something that I've mentioned in previous videos many times. I left with just a couple suitcases each of us, not a lot of stuff. And ironically enough, because whenever you read articles about the inch bags, the I'm never coming home bags or kits, and people start talking and discussing and having these theories about what you absolutely need when you leave for good, never coming back home. And folks will have trailers full of stuff, or travel trailers or motorhomes, and piles of stuff. And actually left with very, very little, and I could have left with even less. It's I could have left with nothing but the funds needed just to get back on our feet, start over elsewhere, and that's when you do something like that for real, is when you realize what really matters in life. I don't need anything material wise other than the people important in your life. That's the only thing that really matters the most. And some of the old grizzled survivalists or preppers will go, yeah, because it's all about skills. And it's, it's not even about skills, man. All those skills and the skills you have, because stuff is not important, it's just the skills. It's not even the skills. The welding, the gardening, the carpentry, bushcraft, or blacksmithing, or mechanics, working with cars and stuff. All those are great, but it's not the most important stuff. The most important stuff, the most important thing is the mindset that you have and the mentality that you have. Because I know of a lot of people that have crazy skills of all kinds, all those skills that are supposedly extremely important, and they are, all those skills, but they lack the can-do attitude, the positive thinking that gets them through the hard times. And in spite of all those skills, they just crumble, they just collapse. While on the other hand, I know of a lot of folks that didn't have any specific skills that you would have considered particularly important, but they had the can-do mentality, the positive thinking that gets them through everything, through whatever life throws their way. And that's all they needed. Those folks, maybe they don't know how to work with, they didn't know nothing about welding, cars, fixing cars, woodworking, or plumbing, or whatever skill that you think it's gonna be golden. But the mentality that they have, the positive attitude that they have for whatever, that's what gets them through, and that's the only thing that they have going for them. Clearly, that's the most important thing. But I'm digressing here. I'm getting off topic, but I think it's important. I think it's important to mention that. Well, continuing with the email here, did you bring precious metals like bullion, coins, or did you sell them before you left? Now, if you brought them, how did you do with the declaration of precious metal customs? I'm going to be answering your question in a minute after reading your email. I live in the European Union, and I know that you're allowed to travel within Europe with precious metals, but how does it work with lots of precious metals going into the European Union? Do you know? I have your first book. He's talking about my first book, which is the Modern Survival Manual, that if you like my take on survival and preparedness, you probably want to check it out. Link is going to be there below. And I recommend it all the time. Well, thanks for recommending it. Glad you liked it. Maybe you mentioned it in your second book, Out And Relocating, which the link is also there below, but I haven't read it yet. Take care, Pete. Well, Pete, yeah, if you're thinking about this kind of stuff, I definitely do recommend you check my second book, Out And Relocating. About your question specifically, I don't have a ton. I brought some precious metals, but not a lot of it. And it's basically works this way, folks, for you in the United States and for you guys in Europe. Basically, it works this way. You're allowed to take, when traveling with cash or precious metals, to the United States or out of the United States, there's no limit actually to how much you can take with you. I mean, if you have a suitcase with $1 million, you can take that in or out of the United States. All right, that's at least in theory. There's no specific limit. What there is, and this is important, and this is what you should keep in mind, is there's a limit regarding what you can take without declaring it. All right, and that limit is $10,000. All right. $10,000, you can go into the United States or you can leave the United States with $10,000 without declaring it. If you're going to be taking more or leaving with more than $10,000, you have to fill up what's called Report of International Transportation of Currency and Monetary Instruments. It's Form FIN-CEN 105. All right, so if you're taking more than $10,000, you have to fill up this form, which of course will raise a huge flag, because this form is specifically intended for stopping terrorism and money laundering and drugs. So you probably want to stay within that limit of $10,000. Now, important to understand as well, this limit is for cash, and as the form itself clearly says, for monetary instruments as well. This means that for gold coins and such, it's also included. All right, you cannot just declare the face value of a gold coin and just get away with that. It's the $10,000 limit is for cash, other currencies and other denominations, or the equivalent in gold and silver as well. Right, so this is important to understand. Now, for you guys in Europe, it works the following way. The limit is 10,000 euros. Right, the limit you're going to be working with is 10,000 euros, also in cash, in bonds, in gold, and in precious metals as well, in diamonds. Same for U.S. Same for the United States. If you have diamonds worth more than $10,000, it's considered within that same limit. All right, so don't try to be smart about that, because you're going to be getting yourself in trouble. Now, the big difference is that even though you have the limit of $10,000 in the United States and 10,000 euros in Europe, and of course, because the euro is worth more than the dollar, it's the equivalent. If you go into Europe with, I don't know what it is right now, but a little bit over $10,000, and it's still within that limit of 10,000 euros, it's 10,000 euros or $10,000 or the equivalent in whatever currency at the moment. Now, the big difference here, and this is important, guys, is that in the United States, the $10,000 limit is for the entire traveling group. This means a family, a group of people traveling together. You cannot divide it for each individual and give a couple $1,000s to each one traveling. It's for the entire group. The limit is 10,000. Now, for Europe law, the limit of 10,000 euros is for each individual. So if you have, yourself and your wife, you can each of you have 10,000 euros when going or leaving Europe, and it's going to be within that limit of not having to declare it. If you have more than that in Europe as well, you simply have to declare it, which will, of course, probably be raising a few questions as of why you're traveling. Of course, the advice here, guys, is one of the best things, and I do talk about this in my book as well, is having an account outside of the country, wherever it is that you're planning on going, and this is part of the planning that you make ahead of time in case of needing to bug out abroad to another country. Hopefully you have an account in that other country, which means it's going to be much better for you for transferring funds using your the banking system rather than going around with a pile of cash, which will of course raise many questions. Now, in terms of why is it important, well, cash is always king. We know that. We've talked about that many times. And even during a financial collapse, you have a period of time, especially at first, where cash is still king. And this is because banks are going to be going through tough times. Maybe they're going to be closing, accounts are going to be frozen, ATMs are going to be running out of money. And during that first period of time, without a doubt, cash is king. It happened in Argentina during the economic collapse when I was over there. Happens in any country that has had a bank run. Everyone taking their money out of the accounts. Cash is king. In Greece, in Cyprus, even right now in Ukraine, when you have eastern Ukraine, you have Donetsk, and those towns there where ATMs have run out of money, and and folks are looking for cash. Cash is still useful. Now, then you have also another fact, which is that as the currency loses value, precious metal keeps it. So if you have a currency, thinking of Argentina, when the country devaluated on the currency, even though cash was indeed really appreciated and was very useful and highly regarded, and if you had cash in hand, it was always a great asset to have. As that keeps losing its value day by day or week by week, your precious metal is what's going to be keeping that value. So precious metals, both gold and silver, are really great instruments so as to preserve whatever savings, whatever money you have from that happening, from that devaluation, that loss of value. Is this likely to happen? It really depends on where you are and what currency you're working with. Of course, the US dollar is not nearly as fragile as the Argentine peso or many other currencies. Dollars are still, the greenbacks are still pretty much a solid currency. But part of a smart approach to preparedness is having a plan for each of these possibilities. So maybe you're going to be having some cash, maybe you're going to be having some precious metals, maybe you're going to be having money in the bank as well, and a foreign account bank as well, in case you have to move money from one place to the other. This is something that in this time and age, very important. If things start getting ugly in whatever country it is that you are, any country, but if things start getting suspicious and things are not looking good, if you have an account elsewhere, you can move money away from the place, the country where the system is a little bit more shaky. Some folks will say, well, if US goes down, everyone goes down with us. That's a very, that's a very American thing to go for, that if we go down, everyone goes down. And what if not? We all like thinking that we are the center of the galaxy, or at least of the planet. And in the case of the United States, it is true that it's a country of huge importance. But the reality is that there's other places, there's other countries, and there's actually other world powers as well. So even though the United States has a huge impact on a global scale, doesn't mean that everything ends or starts with the United States. It may well be that if something particularly bad happens in the United States, other places can't get by. Chances are that's exactly what's going to be happening. So if you have all these tools so as to move around if it ever happens, it's a very important asset, no question about that whatsoever. Now, in terms of gold or silver, of course, one of the things that you see is that silver packs a lot more volume. For each gold coin, you need pretty much 70 silver coins so as to have the same monetary value. So what this means is, and this is something that I've seen myself when leaving Argentina, I didn't have anywhere near the limit that I was working with, explained before, so just a little bit of precious metals. But one of the things that I did realize is that silver gets heavy fast, and preppers, survivalists in general like putting aside a little bit of precious metals, and usually they will go for silver because it's cheaper. And if you have a few bucks to spare that month, or you have a budget for precious metals, usually you're going to be buying silver because gold is considered more expensive, and you don't have the same amount of money for putting in gold. Now the thing is that as you start piling silver, if you ever have to leave in a hurry, or you ever have to leave and weight being an issue and bulk being an issue, silver takes a lot of space and it's quite heavy. Gold, much lighter. Thinking now of a scenario such as in Ukraine, people leaving eastern Ukraine that's unofficially invaded by Russia, right? And you have to go through all these checkpoints. And in those checkpoints, you're going to be stopped, you're going to be searched, and if you have cash, it's going to be taken away from you. You're going to be getting robbed. You're going to be losing the cash, whatever gold, silver you have. That's clear enough. In those cases, you obviously want to hide it as well as possible. And hopefully you don't get caught, and hopefully you don't lose it. I've read about people hiding cash in baby diapers, or in dirty diapers in their diaper bags, or in other places, even swallowing, so what you understand here is that gold and its smaller denominations. I think that a good way to go about it is have 1/10 of an ounce gold coins. Those are small enough, and you can easily hide them. Even in your wallet with some of your spare change, some of your coins, you just put it in there in the wallet. It's much more concealable. Maybe you have your wallet with a few bucks and you just get by, and in your wallet, you have maybe 20, 30 bucks there, and in the coins, in the little coin compartment, you have 4 or 5 1/10 of an ounce gold coins, and that's quite a bit of money, and maybe you can get away with that, right? Going through a checkpoint in Ukraine, maybe you don't even notice that, they don't even bother checking it, or maybe it's much easier to hide. During World War II, actually some of the agents operating behind enemy lines, they had in their jackets, in their patches, hidden behind the patches, little gold coins, or in their shoes, they had special insoles for their shoes so as to conceal some of those gold coins as well there. So yeah, gold is much lighter per ounce, and in terms of monetary value, much easier to conceal and such. Of course, the advantage of precious metals, anywhere in the world where you are, you walk into any town, city, and you'll have a dealer somewhere that will buy your precious metals for whatever price is going at that time, and you get local currency for whatever it is that you need. So yeah, folks, that's gonna be it for now. I think I addressed some of the key points that you were looking for, and that's gonna be it. Remember that if you're interested in all this stuff for bugging out and relocating specifically, my book, the link is gonna be there below, same as the first one. Guys, subscribe, take care, have a great day, and as always, see you in our next video.